Lakeview TV!
There's lots of flowers popping out at camp right now. You've probably seen these yellow flowers all over the place. These are planted flower that Dan Keel put in. They're daffodils. But some of the flowers that you may not have seen, that you may not notice, are unique looking ones like these. These are the flowers or catkins on the American hazelnut. And we've got a few of these around camp. They're an early spring flower. They've been out for a few weeks already. And the American hazelnut is actually the American filbert, which is closely related to the filberts that you buy for Christmas time maybe, or you get in mixed nuts. Their hazelnut is native to the US, but the larger ones that you usually buy in the store are usually European ones. But these are just as tasty when the nuts form in the fall, and usually the squirrels will get them before most of the time we get a chance to get them, but they're very tasty. A lot of the flowers you don't think of as being up in the trees, but these are flowers from a maple tree. They're actually from a silver maple. Out here in front of the dining hall at Camp Lakeview, these trees with the white flowers are a Bradford pear. They're planted as an ornamental tree. They have pretty white flowers all over them. Flowers are pretty much there to attract pollinators, insects or birds or whatever, to pollinate the flowers to make them fertile so that their seeds will propagate and grow more trees later, or plants, or whatever the plant happens to be. But if you get up close to the flowers, you'll notice a lot of times they'll smell pretty nice if you sniff them. Well, these Bradford pears, if you get up close to them, or even if the weather's kind of calm and there's a lot of trees like this, you notice it's not really a sweet smell. It actually is kind of an unpleasant smell that these flowers have. And the reason for that is that you think of a lot of the insects that pollinate flowers usually are attracted to the sweet smell, like the bees and honeybees and stuff. They make honey out of the sweet nectar in the flowers. Well, these flowers with the foul odor attract a lot of times flies and other insects to pollinate instead of the bees, honeybees and stuff that you normally see. I think the honeybees probably still come to these flowers for pollen, because they eat pollen as well for protein, but the flies are a bigger pollinator for some of the stinky flowers that you might come across. So if you smell a flower that's kind of stinky, watch what kind of bugs come to that flower to pollinate it. Sometimes you'll notice that it's different from the ones that you'll see on other plants. This plant here is bush honeysuckle, and then there's another one over here. It's called multiflora rose. A lot of people call this one greenbrier, and if you've ever walked into the thorns of a patch of this, it's something you'll remember. Both the bush honeysuckle and the multiflora rose are invasive species, meaning that they weren't here originally in the area. Somebody planted these and they've spread all over the place. So since they're not native plants, they tend to put their leaves out a lot quicker than a lot of the other plants. These black raspberry plants are just about to leaf out, and right below them is one of my favorite flowers. It's the purple violet, which is a state flower of the state of Wisconsin, where I grew up. As the weather warms up outside, you might notice a lot of fungi that start coming out. This orange one on this stick is called a jelly fungus, and there's quite a few different ones, different shapes and stuff. A lot of them are yellow or orange or red. They're kind of gooey if you accidentally touch them when you pick up a stick or something, but you'll probably see these if you look around outside, especially if it's been wet out, and you can find some dead wood anywhere. They're pretty common. Here's a picture of what people are out looking for in the springtime in the woods in central Indiana or southern Indiana. This is called a morel mushroom that people will like to go out and hunt for. There's 3 eagles flying around camp today. There's one sitting up in the tree above Serengeti right now, and 2 others that are flying around. I think it might be a pair trying to chase off a 3rd one. You know, it's great to be out in the woods, but you really have to think about what you're doing sometimes when you are out in the woods. You can run across things like this plant here. If you look closely at the stem, it's covered with spines, and it's just leafing out now. This is growing in some areas where the trees are just starting to come back from where we had done previous site work here at the villages. This is called devil's walking stick, and if you grabbed onto this while you're walking through the woods, you'd definitely see the reason why it's called what it is. It would really hurt. But you can hear that the wind is really bad today. Another hazard you really want to watch out for when you're out in the woods is trees that are hanging, or dead branches that are hanging up on limbs higher up in a tree. When it's windy like this, you really have to be careful about stuff falling on you in the woods, and so you really want to be aware of not only what you're looking at on the ground when you're looking for plants or mushrooms or anything else, but be aware that there's hazards up above you too. And one of these that, if it happened to fall when you were underneath it, it would be something that would really kind of wreck your day. Here's a dead ash tree that I had to cut down at camp near the cabin so it wouldn't fall where it could do any damage. This is an ash tree that probably got killed by the emerald ash borer, and as it stood dead for a year or so after the wood borers had killed it, the tree was also attacked by a fungus. And here underneath the bark of the tree, you can see this stringy stuff. This is actually mycelium from a fungus called Armillariella. It's appropriately called shoestring fungus because of all the mycelium that grows like threads like this, like strings underneath the bark. And this, if you look closer, you can see where the wood borers had made tunnels under the bark, and that's what originally killed the tree. And then the mycelium was able to follow underneath the bark, probably followed where the ash borers had gone, and finish the tree off if it wasn't dead already. This is a really voracious fungus that kills, or it can actually kill trees too, but usually there's an injury that the fungus can get into the tree to start it. But this fungus, Armillariella, it actually has been documented as the largest living organism in the world out west in the mountains. They actually did DNA tests on mycelium from one fungus that covered like 30 acres or more, and they said it was probably the heaviest and the biggest single living organism that they'd ever seen in the world. I'm not sure if you can hear this sound, but this is the sound of a fox screaming. That bright light shining is his eyes. I'll see if I can call him closer. Couldn't get him to come any closer.